Bishop International Airport, the gateway to Flint and Genesee County, is in many ways the pride of the community.
This Bishop Airport is the initiator of how we can bring up our community to live and to build. I think anybody that walks through those gates, they feel that, hey, this is a first-class operation.
But like its community, the airport has humble roots. Bishop's story started in 1928 with Arthur Giles Bishop.
I know he was a very kind, quiet person. He did an enormous amount of things behind the scenes. He was not showy in any way. He was a banker. He had been with Genesee Bank from the beginning, and he was took a great interest in the airport and gave the original land, as you probably know, to build the original airport.
Barny Bishop and Falding Gadola are Bishop's great-granddaughters. Both were young when their great-grandfather passed away, but his memory lived on during their childhood and adulthood. Stories about Bishop always took center stage at family gatherings. Oftentimes, those stories included his friend and airport visionary Sid Stewart, who convinced Bishop to take an interest in his idea.
Well, he had a terrific foresight into air travel, or not travel, but airplanes. And Sid Stewart was a good friend, and the two of them, I don't know who else actually was involved with the planning aspect or whatever, but he bought the land and donated it to the city of Flint with this specific order that it be made into an airport.
In the early years, the airport continued to grow and thrive. But by the 1950s, the facility started to deteriorate.
Well, it wasn't the greatest. When I came to Bishop Airport in 1960, there was grass growing in between the runway and the taxiways. There was one Quonset hut hangar that they used for refueling like the old service stations would have.
The old terminal was so bad, it had leaks. There were buckets in the lounges to collect the water coming through the roof. The visibility was bad, the seating was bad.
The status quo remained for years, and general aviation became an afterthought. Then in 1987, a new beginning was on the horizon.
Mayor Sharp at the time and his assistant, Rob Collier, realized that in order for the city to progress, we needed to upgrade and have an airport to attract air carriers. So the city at that time did not have the financial capability of generating those kind of revenues.
And so was born the idea for an airport authority. Dave McCready, a pilot and area businessman, was among others appointed to a feasibility committee to discuss how to form the authority.
The advantage of an authority is that it has the ability to raise revenue to promote the airport.
Developing the authority was a 2-year process. Now United States Congressman Dan Kildee was just beginning his political career in Genesee County and led the campaign to create the authority.
I was on the committee that helped negotiate the agreement, but then on August 10, 1987, I remember the date when we at the county passed the resolution and formed the agreement, we had to put together a campaign pretty quickly to go to the voters to approve creation of the authority and then millage support in order to construct the facilities and provide the operational support.
And the voters listened, deciding in favor of creating an authority and a millage. 9 Airport Authority board members were appointed from Flint and Genesee County. Finding someone to steer the ship in uncharted waters was their first task.
The idea of locating somebody who had really good experience, understood not only managing an airport, but the challenges of growing an airport, because we really started with something that I don't think anybody would characterize as a first-class airport. It was almost like a sort of a bus station for airplanes. And so when we decided that we needed to go out and find somebody, it was, it was really a case of finding an individual who had leadership abilities, who understood the development process, and could manage an airport that was intended to be a growing airport.
The candidates that applied were outstanding. One in particular was unanimous vote.
That unanimous vote went to Jim Rice, then a 39-year-old from Springfield, Illinois. Getting his vote for Flint wasn't an easy sell for the newly appointed authority.
My first impression was not good, I can say that honestly. It was an old terminal, it was very dirty, dingy, and I wanted to turn around, get back on the plane, and go home, but I didn't.
Instead, Rice made Flint his new home. In 1990, he accepted the offer as airport director, rolled up his sleeves, and quickly got to work. With a rundown terminal, cracked runways, and no money to fix it all, the challenges were endless.
We had to pick an engineer, an architect for the everything that was going to happen. When Jim Rice came, he had his marching orders, and those were to make the airport grow, and we needed a terminal in the worst way.
How did we find the money? We started going to the Federal Aviation Administration, Michigan Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and we showed them our plans. You know, we want to move the major highway, we want to buy 30-some parcels of land, we want to build a new terminal, tear down the old one, and by the way, we need all new runways and taxiways.
And I remember those times, that period as being somewhat difficult because, you know, people expected immediate results. Well, airports just don't spring up out of the ground. It takes a little bit of time. There was design and engineering, there was lots of changes just in terms of the roadway configurations here. And then ultimately the airport construction itself took a few years. So the first few years were difficult.
Bristol Road and the railroad line surrounding the road had to be completely refigured. That alone was a multi-million-dollar expense and a time-consuming process. But with an ambitious airport director and supportive board members, deadlines became shorter and the impossible took on a new meaning.
The old Bristol Road went basically right through the airport where it sits right now. So there was some land acquisition that needed to take place. There was new engineering around the roads. There was new road construction. You know, it was a big project, but it was a big plan.
You know, I mean, I remember one of the first meetings we had over 30 agencies in the room, and all saying, "Well, that can't be done. You got to do this. You have to do that." And we're sitting there taking notes, thinking, "Okay, who's that guy's boss?" You know, and that guy's boss works for this guy, and you know, you start calling your state reps and your congressmen. And again, when they're all on the same page, it got done, and they got done very quickly. Environmental studies, they said, would take 5 years. We completed in 3 months, you know, and wrote it off one roadblock at a time and made things happen. That's what the community wanted.
By October of 1993, 2.5 years after design plans were drawn up and implemented, the new airport terminal was ready for the public.
I look back at that and I think, you know, it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too. It was rewarding.
Total happiness. It was like seeing a little dream come true.
Though the doors to the terminal were open, the uphill battle continued. Rice and others began tackling a new set of challenges.
Well, we opened the doors. We didn't have a lot of air service, and then you start looking. Okay, now you know, the old saying, "You build it, they will come," didn't fall true with that. The only jet service we had at that time was U.S. Air, and they pulled out on us. So we have a few puddle jumpers and a brand new state-of-the-art facility, and we were scrambling.
Rice hit the road, meeting face-to-face with airline representatives. He had a hard sell. Though their market studies proved they had the demand for air service, flying daily to and from Flint wasn't exactly attractive to airlines at the time.
And I think the real turning point for our airport was when we convinced AirTran, at that time was ValueJet, to start service here. And I'll tell you exactly what happened. They started service here, and they didn't do real well in the beginning, but they started doing better, and more passengers. Well, guess what part of the country we live in? Northwest Territory at that time. And they were not going to let another airline come in here and take away from their domain. So Northwest put on more flights. But guess what happened? We filled those. And then, lo and behold, so AirTran added more flights, Northwest added more flights. All of a sudden, Delta said, "Hey, we're not going to let this happen too." So Delta started up. And guess what? We filled all those flights.
After a long struggle, Bishop became Flint's Cinderella story. The planes continued to fill up, and a strong partnership developed, playing a key role in the airport's success. Brooks Patterson and his team in Oakland County, an economic engine just 10 minutes south of the airport, helped Bishop become the regional airport it is today.
We couldn't keep up with the growth. You know, we were growing at 15 to 21% a year. We couldn't build parking lots fast enough. And again, those were challenging days also. We expanded the terminal 4 times to accommodate the growth. So, you know, we went from 100,000 passengers to 1.2 million passengers. It was just people, I don't think, even realized it.
I'm still a little bit awestruck. As I drove in today to the parking lot, I saw all the cars here, and I saw all the people of the community that are using it.
But the work isn't over. With lots of room to grow, the challenges, though different, remain.
Our market studies, for example, show we have the potential of about 2 million passengers, and we're, you know, only halfway there. So those challenges will always be there.
After 24 years as the airport's director, Jim Rice is passing the baton and preparing to embark on a new challenge of his own: retirement.
So I guess October 8th or 9th of 2014, I'm going to roll over and not have to come to work. My challenge at that point will be to make my wife happier.
On October 9th, 2014, almost 21 years to the day since the opening of the new terminal, a new airport director will officially step in.
Well, nobody's going to replace Jim Rice. His role in the development of this airport is, going to be an important part of our local history. The challenge is, where do we go from here, and how do we build on Jim's great work and continue to grow the airport in a way that fulfills its mission to our community?
I see a bright future. I think, my replacement, it'll be their responsibility to maintain good staff, good leadership, work with the city, the county. The Oakland County is a big part of our development. That person works with them and the staff. Again, potentially, we're only halfway there, so I'm optimistic.
Jim Rice has brought this airport up to speed. He's a forward thinker. He gets things done, and he's active in the community of getting people, and I think he's wonderful. I enjoyed working with him through the years. I think that our great-grandfather would be so proud and glad that he donated this land. I think he would be very pleased. It's helping the community.